Great. Thank you, Mateusz. So, as an introduction, I'm from Sligo in the west of Ireland, and I live in Dublin with my wife Angela, daughter Rachel, and son Alan, who's a bike mechanic actually, which is very handy for me for preparing for these trips. Pat Power from Galway in the west of Ireland also. His lovely wife Audrey is on the call, I believe. He lives with Audrey, his daughters Ali and Kate. We both work in technology. This is a picture of the Maranoons. Damien, I think one of our good friends, is on the call. I wouldn't say that we're a cycling group. It's more like a collective anarchist group of headbangers, would be a good way of describing us. But they're quite an interesting bunch, good fun, very intelligent, high achieving bunch, all from rural Ireland. All working in tech bar Damien. Again, Damien's a different level to the rest of us in terms of fitness, but he enjoys the fun of the group. When the six of us go on a trip together, we usually hire a van to carry our luggage and take turns to drive. Well, most of us. A couple of lads have had arguments with pillars at some stage, so that's another story. Just initial question was, why Trans Dinarica? So we saw a video. It was an Instagram video, and we both immediately thought that looks so cool. We have to do that. And we went on to the Trans Dinarica website. We bought the pack for the full 8 countries, and I have to say it was worth it. Lots of wonderful material and routes that we used to plan our trip. I guess why bikepacking? Cycling is our favorite hobby. Social side would be the most important thing for me. The friendship, the fun, the adventures, memory stories, the banter you meet with the people along the way is hugely important. Getting outside in the fresh air, exploring other countries is great. Health and fitness is a bonus, but one of the things, and particularly about Trans Dinarica, you visit places of outstanding natural beauty, and we will show you some of those places that we visited. Absolutely stunning places to visit. In terms of previous bikepacking experiences, Pat started the ball rolling in 2019 in Norway. He went with his sister Colette, hi Colette, and his daughter Ali. And I was so interested in it. I said, "Oh, I'd love to join you on a trip, Pat." So we went to Spain after COVID. We went along the old Via de la Plata. It's a Camino trail from Seville right up through the heart of Spain. Amazing UNESCO World Heritage sites to see. Really special trip. And I've done a couple of trips with my son Alan. We've gone from Biarritz to San Sebastian, and then we started doing multiple trips with the Maranoons, and they're really great, very great fun. Those trips. Say we normally hire a van and take it in turns to drive. In terms of our top countries, I think Pat said he loved Norway best. I love Spain, but I would say Slovenia and Bosnia we have to go and see. After they would be our top countries. Of course, Ireland is a favorite spot. The Wild Atlantic Way is a super place to cycle, and we love Colmar as one of our favorite spots. Pat's brother has a spot down in Linan, which we love going down to. In terms of the bikes, we have gravel bikes. We've had them for about 6 years. I think the key thing is to keep them well, maintain them. Pat's is a giant Revolt. I have a Cannondale Topstone, and they're very solid bikes, and they've never let us down. I'd say having a son as a mechanic is a great convenience. Normally, before the trip, we would make sure the bike is in tip-top shape. So if you need new tires, or make sure you're fresh sealant, often the new chain and cassette, make sure the bottom bracket is in good shape, brake pads. So really important to have your kit in good order. It's Restrap is the brand of luggage system that we use. We find it very solid. I know Ben uses the Tailfin system, Ben from Oxford, and that's a solid system as well. In terms of the kit that we brought, if we started, I've mentioned the luggage system, there's multiple elements to that, your frame bag, top tube bag, make sure you have dry bags because it's going to rain, handlebar bag and saddle bag. Often forks, I sometimes use those fork bags. Your technology, battery bank is crucial, especially out on the road if you need to navigate, your phone, watch, GPS device. All your bike accessories, so your lights, lock is important, especially even if you just want to go in for a meal and lock the two bikes together. Things like spare say cables. We have a multi-tool. Just making sure like a bacon strip solution is very important, especially if you get a couple of punctures. And then we've spare tubes as well. Cycling clothes, I would say, go as light as you can. Normally, we would just take two tops, two bibs, and wash. And it's not the end of the world if you have to wear the same gear maybe a second day in a row. But typically, you'll always find somewhere to be able to wash them. But going light is important. A down jacket is very handy for when it gets cold. And then just other personal stuff after that. In terms of navigation, I download all of the routes onto my phone, and it's the right with GPS and offline version. I also have the routes loaded into a Garmin Edge 1030 Plus, and I must say that we've had no issues in navigation. We've got the two devices, and using the right with GPS is much easier when you're going through a more complex through a city or something like that. And then out in the trails, the Garmin device is fine. Quad lock is the system we use to lock the phone onto the bike, and I find it very, very, very solid as well. So yeah, I could recommend all of those elements. So in terms of costs, another question we were asked, again, this can vary from person to person. We set ourselves a budget. We said, what about an average of 50 quid a night per person for accommodation? Some of the nights was you could get for less like 30 quid per person per night. We aim for two-bed apartments. And then when we got to Ravno, we said, let's treat ourselves. And we had a beautiful hotel there. It's an old railway station, and that was a bit more expensive, €85 each. But on average, it was 50 quid a night per person was our budget. We also allowed €80 per person for food, and we eat a lot when we're out on the course because it's a lot of hours on the saddle. So we do eat very well, and we enjoy the odd beer on the trip as well. Other than that, the flights were 200 to get to Trieste. That's 100 each, and then 150 each to get back from Dubrovnik. We had a taxi booked from Trieste to get to Gova and Dinarica, and we had a train to Genesese, and then some of the sites that we saw, we paid for various elements. But in total, it was 2,000 each. Now, we did meet our wives at the end of Dubrovnik. I haven't included those costs, but just to give you for the 12 days cycling, it was €2,000 each. In terms of the logistics, just to go through some of the questions we were asked there, it was Ryanair flights, and it's €60 to include the bike on the trip. Then we used a company called Transfero to get our taxi from Trieste. What was interesting is the Italian drivers don't like leaving Italy, whereas the Slovenian drivers were quite happy to come in and pick us up from Trieste. And we got a ferry to Pag Island, and we got a beautiful train from Nova Gorica to Genesese. And I would highly recommend taking that train. It's on the Lonely Planets, one of the best train journeys, epic train journeys of the world. And other than that, we were on the bike. So that was all our logistics. In terms of the bike assembly, the hotel we stayed in Lipa were really very, very nice. We found that throughout anywhere we stayed, the people hosting the accommodation were more than friendly. We had, like sometimes if we're going with the group, the Maranoons, we would use bike bags because we have a van to put them in. But in this case, if you're going point to point, you need to make sure you pack up your bikes well in a box. Again, the recycling, the hotel looked after that for us and took care of discarding the boxes. And they were very good to us, giving us a nice place to assemble our bikes before we headed off the next day. In terms of this trip, so we started with going from Nova Gorica up to Lake Bled, and it was just an outstanding train journey, I must say. Again, the staff couldn't have been more friendly. It was only, I think, €2 extra, €3 extra to add the bike onto the train, and it was the most pleasant journey. This particular bridge here that we passed, the Solcan Bridge, is the world's longest stone arch railway bridge, and it goes over the Socha River. And we went over the bridge on the train to get up to Lake Bled, and then we cycled past it. There's an amazing cycle network in Slovenia, and you go past this arch or this bridge on the way back. So we really, really thought it was outstanding beauty there. Where did we get our information from? So in terms of accommodation, I use booking.com or Airbnb, but primarily booking.com. Right with GPS for our route planning. In terms of looking up some of the sites we were going to see, it was Google. It was Google just to search, and TripAdvisor was very good for where the best places to eat. Say you want to get a nice meal at the end of the day, they have some good recommendations. Of course, Trans Dinarica have a wonderful website. It's important to read the website because they tell you all of those places that you need to visit, and they're not all on the route. So you need to be able to be flexible and amend your route to go and bring it to these important sites. So we started with the Trans-Dinarica pack, but then we were able to do our research and then adjust it to make sure that we incorporated all of those sites that we wanted to see. So we put together a 59-page PDF with all the routes, the accommodation, logistics, even down to the coffee stop. So we were well prepared. In terms of one of the questions was, were there any logistical problems? And I would say probably the more important thing was stick to the plan, as in what was the plan that the Trans Dinarica gave. When I think we probably did too much. I don't know if you'd agree, Pat. We did about 100K a day average, but when you add the weight of your pack to the amount of climbing you're doing and the distance, it kind of wore the legs down after a while. And so there was one particular day where it was lashing rain. We ended up rerouting because we wanted to avoid the gravel trail. And we ended up in a road that was so dangerous, we thought we were going to be killed. It just, the traffic was nuts. So we had to reroute again on quieter roads. And we ended up doing an extra 35 kilometers that day. So it was lashing rain, soaked to the skin, and an extra. We did 135K that day. So what I would say is stick to the advised routes from the Trans Dinarica pack. They're really very quiet. They're very safe. It's only when we went off the standard pack that we ended up getting into some difficulty. So in terms of the other thing, I would say give yourself time to see all the sites. There were some of the days we had to skip some of the things that we had planned because it just would have got to our destination too late. So I think most of the routes in the Trans Dinarica are about 50K. It's probably good we would say a sweet spot for us would be about 75, 80K. 100 was probably too much. It didn't give you time to see all the sites. In terms of just in terms of kind of a tip when you're planning the accommodation, we use filters. So an important thing is we plan maybe 7, 8 months in advance. And when you're filtering and you're booking your accommodation, make sure you click cancellation policy that you can cancel right up until maybe a week before you go. Because for whatever reason, like if you've spent 500 or 600 or even €1,000 on accommodation, the last thing you want to do is lose that. So make sure that it's free cancellation right up until the time you're traveling. We again filter by price, location. An important thing when you're booking the different accommodation we found is make sure there's a restaurant close to where you're staying, because the last thing you want to do after 100K is jump on a bike and cycle 4 or 5K to get your food. And then look for, we again filtered by rating over 8, and primarily we went for 2-bed apartments. I say those one of the days we treated ourselves to a nice hotel. In terms of the weather, we were taking a risk because it was April and we didn't know we had to kind of prepare for all sorts of weather. We were very fortunate in terms of it was 16 to 20 degrees most days. I think that's 61 to 68 Fahrenheit. So most of the time it was sunny. Of the 12 days, 10 of them were very sunny. 2 days, horrendous rain where it lashed out of it. Some very windy days, particularly when we got to Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was up to 40-kilometer winds. Again, it's quite a challenge if you've got weight and you're doing 100K in the day. But as you can see there, that's a picture of us getting to Lake Bled. Absolutely beautiful, and the weather was just fantastic. Now, the flip of that, look at the strain on our faces there. Uh, we look pretty miserable there. You can see the pain. For Damien Murray on the call, we love the hardship. I don't know if anybody watches the Father Ted sitcom, but one of favorite character, Mrs. Doyle, always talked about loving the hardship, and we're a little bit like that. We're kind of hardy boyos, and the weather doesn't put us off. It was tough at that stage, I have to say, but we kind of just dig in and work through. We never felt like getting off the bike and stopping. That was one of the questions. We always have that determination to keep going to the end. Um, on the first days at the top of one of the mountains, it was actually snow. It was near a ski resort. And just give an example of the kind of the variety of weather. So we did take a risk, but we were very fortunate, and it was fantastic weather when we were there. Some questions about the route. So we picked three countries. So we flew into Trieste, got the train up to Lake Bled because we felt that that was a must-visit place, an outstanding place, and then came back down past Nova Gorica, and then right down. We took the secondary route along by Pag Island, in then to Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then we came off the Trans Dinarica Trail and we went down through the Ćiro Trail, which is an old narrow gauge railway line, absolutely stunning. So in total, we did 1,117 kilometers, 15.8 thousand meters, and that was over 11 days. So a fair amount of climbing. So if any of you are familiar with the packs that the Trans Dinarica provide, we did the main routes primarily in Slovenia, and in Croatia, it was a combination of some of the main routes and the secondary routes along the coast. And then in Bosnia, we just did two of the main routes to Mostar, and then we finished, say, with the Ćiro Trail down to Dubrovnik, where we met her good wives to finish. So this was the breakdown of our 11 stages, say average 102 per day. A lot of climbing, like 1,439 average. A couple of big days in there, like the first couple of days, nearly up towards 2,000 meters per day. So it was, we had to be well trained up for this, I have to say. But Pat's the person who looks after the training side of things, the nutrition, the turbo bike schedule, all of the hill climbing and so on. I look more at the organization side of things, and then Pat's the photographer of the group. They're going to show you a few nice pictures that Pat took through the trip. In terms of the terrain, you're very much aware that on one side you've got the Adriatic Sea. You're going through a very mountainous area. The Socer River Valley is outstanding. You go past some amazing sites along the way, such as the Scozion Caves, the Tolminka River, beautiful, and the Dinaric Alps. So again, it's a mixture of different types of surfaces along the way. You get outstanding quality asphalt surfaces, and then you get some really tough gravel surfaces and everything in between. So you need to be well prepared in terms of the bike's in good shape and eating your meals carefully. This is just a visual to give you an idea. If you're doing the trip, you need to be prepared for the climbing. But that also adds to the beauty because you're getting up to high distances and some of the views are absolutely outstanding. This is just to give you an example of a kind of a variety of some of the terrains that we covered. So this here, we're going past the Bohinka River, and you can see it's like a hardcore surface that we're putting in a new cycle track. And we were able to cycle along that particular section. There's another one. This is my favorite type of cycling terrain. So you've got a lovely grass growing in the middle. That to me is perfection. If I could have the whole trip along that lines, it's really exactly what I enjoy most. I must say that the Slovenia in particular, the cycling network is second to none. It's just superb. Like you can see their path heading along. This is the cycle path up above the Soccia River, and it is just a fabulous place to cycle. I would highly recommend it as a must cycle area. Again, some of the brand new roads, and one of the presentations that Mateusz did recently, he talked about some of what was previously gravel, and then you arrive and it's and a stunning asphalt surfaces have been put down. There's an example of a brand new asphalt surface. This, on the other hand, was an example. We had met this French guy, Gautier, traveling to Japan, and he joined us for a while. And that's part of the trip as well, as it mentions the banter, meeting the local people, meeting other people who are on the Trans Dinarica Trail. That was particularly technical. And I'm ashamed to say the Mariners wouldn't be happy with this, but I had to get off the bike a couple of times because it was so technical. Um, it was really needed a mountain bike to get through and navigate. Some of the times you would have nice gravel like this along rivers and streams, really ideal. And then other times you're up on a height on gravel like this. Here you're in Bakar, and your views of the Combarda Islands, absolutely stunning place to cycle through. So again, I think we would describe it as slow cycling, where we're taking our time, even though we're doing 100K a day, you're probably doing that over maybe 7 or 8 hours, and you're taking your time. You're not on a rush to go because there's so many nice places to see. Again, just an example on the road to Seine, top quality surface. This was on the way to the ferry in Prisna to Pag Island. Again, lovely views, perfect surfaces. This was coming out of the harbour after the ferry on Pag Island. This was a tricky enough section. It was on a gravel section towards Pag village, and it was quite sandy. So you found that your bike was sinking in, and you could easily topple over if you weren't careful. You had to watch where you were cycling. Uh, Again, it's difficult because you're trying to take in all the views and you want to keep your head up and take it all in. But certain sections you have to have the head down watching for the surface. Lots of bridges. This is an example of the river Zermania and crossing over. And again, lots of quiet country roads. We just wanted to give you a flavor. There was a question, do we have any interesting stories about animals? I think we considered making a crude joke about sheep, but we decided this is 8 o'clock in the morning is probably not the right time to make those type of jokes. But here you can see just some local cattle blocking the road, and we just take our time. I think the same with dogs. I would advise don't try and rush past them. Just take your time, and the dog can see that you're. We didn't have any issues. Was basically what I'd like to say. We had no problems with it with animals on the trip. Um, just kind of giving you some visuals. This was the descent, which is an amazing descent after you come out of Croatia and come down into Bosnia and Herzegovina. Really enjoyed the descent there. It was spectacular. This is the Ćiro Trail to Ravno, it was an old railway line, a narrow gauge railway line, and again could be quite tricky. So you do need to have, I would say, go for a wider tire if you can. Maybe a 45-inch tire would be appropriate on a gravel bike for some of these roads. And then really just a summary then, just what was different about the three countries. So what we found, Slovenia, we were really impressed with the local people in Slovenia. You could see three generations of people out gardening together. They're big into their forestry, their beehives, their gardening. Like it's lovely to see a whole family, three generations working together in gardening. It was absolutely beautiful. They're very proud of their country, and they had the best cycle network, really clean, and some amazing sites like Lake Bled, Mossy, Culmeen Gorge, um, and the Sokyon Caves. Would just say you must go and visit these places. Croatia, it's all about the seaside towns. It's very, say, the mountains and the seaside towns. One thing we were disappointed with, there was a bit of litter we noticed coming out of Slovenia into Croatia, but then we did notice there was signs of the war there as well. You couldn't help but avoid that. A lot of abandoned villages and things like that. But again, we've just, I'm not going to read down through them, but there's a list here of some of the outstanding places that we visited on the way. Bosnia, we loved. I thought Mostar was our favorite town, really wonderful place, and Medjugorje, great place to visit. The Ćiro Trail and Ravno, a stunning, stunning place. So recommended definitely. This is just an example. You going through Slovenia, this you'd see gardens and beehives like this everywhere. Uh, Again, I mentioned the signs of war. I think there was something like 600,000 Croatians displaced during the war. So you'd see graveyards was another thing you saw. This is an example of an abandoned village that we passed. Another example there. Um, Most difficult moments. So you can see the strain on Pat's face there and my face. Um, so I think that was a particular difficult point. Thankfully, it's a neither we haven't had fallen out on any of these trips. We haven't had any arguments, no shouting. So thankfully, but that was a point when you're soaked to the skin, you're tired after a few days cycling, and um, yeah, but you say you just dig deep and keep going. The other tough one was that when we rerouted and we shouldn't have, and we ended up with really dangerous traffic. So I'd say avoid any of the main roads, stick to the Trans Dinarica Trail. Again, there was only once we misnavigated, and this is what happened. We took a wrong turn and we went off on a trail, and it was so steep. Again, Damien Murray, Jim Hannon, apologies. I got off the bike and had to walk. That's just an example there of one of the tougher trails. The other thing was if arriving too late, there's so many wonderful things to see. And if you try and stop and see them all, you're going to end up arriving at your accommodation late. And this was an example the night we arrived into Ravno. Most beautiful moments. That particular day I showed you where you could see the strain in our face if I go back. That same day, we were at our point that I'd say most broken, and we came across a lovely restaurant Bosilnia in Postulnia. I'm sorry for butchering the names. You can see my little pronunciation tips here in blue. Uh, but the joy in my face there, because we arrived in and had a fire. The staff were wonderful. They looked after us, and you can see I'm so happy there after getting food into me and getting a fire and a change of clothes. Very, very important. Another night we arrived in too late because there's just so many things to see into Lokev in Slovenia. And when we arrived into the village, it was 9 o'clock at night, and all the restaurants and shops were closed. But the owner of the accommodation, the guest house, got in touch with him, and he and his wife came over with that plate of food you see in the bottom right. I think it was the best food we had on the trip because we were just so hungry. And again, we would didn't make that mistake again. Need to make sure that if you're not going to arrive in time, that you eat along the way. Um, that particular day again was the day we arrived into Mostar, and we had done 135K in the lashing rain, nearly been killed on the bikes, taking the wrong route. And just that was the best beer I think I've ever had, sitting there looking at the Mostar Bridge, and we certainly enjoyed those pints. Then just to kind of give you some of the highlights, some of the places we visited, Lake Bled, place of outstanding natural beauty. It is just phenomenal. That's an example of one of the pictures he's taking. He's got a good eye for some of the pictures. Lake Bled, again, we were blessed with the weather. You can see the weather there. Tulmeen Gorge, we'd highly recommend it. Beautiful place to visit. Again, it was about a 2 hour not sorry, it's about a 2 kilometer walk around the particular, there's a particular route you walk through to get through it, but it's well worth it. Here was the Lipizzaner horses. It's also on the route, but the security guard was so kind to us because when we arrived, there was a big horse fair on, and you weren't allowed to go in to the place. But the Pat charmed the security guard, and he managed to get us in, and he gave us a personal tour of the farm, which was stunning. So that was a nice visit. The Scotian Caves, again, it's a UNESCO site. I would say this is where I'd say do your research, read the website, because there's places that you should visit along the way and adjust your route to bring it to these places because they're just so well worth visiting. Um, yeah, just kind of then in terms of Croatia, our favorite part of Croatia was the seaside towns. And again, nice places to eat, just very enjoyable sitting, just watching the world go by. This is a place called Back Backer. I think so. The spelling is incorrect there, and views of the Kavarner Islands. Another lovely spot is the Romagna waterfalls. Very, very worthwhile visiting. Um, yeah, I just kind of skip through these, just trying to give you a flavor of the places that we visit along the way. Mostar, well worth going to the mosque, and having a walk through the market, trying the local. Again, what I'd advise is try the local foods when you visit these places and ask what is the local speciality, and try all the different foods and try to sample the local culture. One of the nice things when we were in Mostar was they're local divers, and they I think they collect about 20 euro or something like that, and they'll do a dive off the bridge. But they're very brave guys, so it was interesting to watch them. They've got a big crowd to see these guys diving off the bridge. And then here we have the Ćiro cycling route. Now this is not on the Trans Dinarica pack, but we thought this is our way to get to Dubrovnik, and it was a lovely part of the trip as well. Again, I'll just give you a flavor of what that looked like. Medjugorje, we thought, well, we have Knock in Ireland and you have Lourdes in France, and we had passed both of them in the same year. So we thought, why not? Let's go to Medjugorje as well. And it's an interesting place to visit. And this just some pictures of the Ćiro Trail. So I think that's your profile on your WhatsApp, Pat. It's a nice picture. And again, this was as you're coming up uh, and looking back down across the lake, so some of the steel bridges we crossed. This was an interesting one. This particular bridge here, it probably shouldn't allow you to cycle across it at all because there's a 500-meter drop below it, and it's frightening crossing it. Quite, I would say, a little bit dangerous, but it was built by Eiffel, the same guy that built the Eiffel Tower. Um, but it was an interesting one to cross. You certainly needed to hold your nerve as you were crossing it. There's Pat getting ready to cross. And then the other thing about the Ćiro Trail, there was 12 tunnels, and there were bat-filled tunnels. But again, it was pitch dark, so you had to have your lights going through them. But it was an unusual experience. And the other thing about it was there was some landslides, so you need to be careful. There's maybe only about a meter available to cycle past because there's a sheer drop. So you do need to be careful. I think certainly for traffic, no cars can drive up there because there's a couple of dangerous spots just to be aware of. This is an example of an old railway station, and these were dotted the whole way along the route. And one of them had been converted into a hotel, and that's where we stayed in Ravno. But just giving you an idea of how beautiful it was. This was the Stanica station in Ravno where we stayed. So outstanding scenery, as to say. And then we got to Dubrovnik, and we met Angela and Audrey in Dubrovnik, and we spent another couple of days there. But thoroughly enjoyable trip. And I would say happy to answer any questions that people have. And I'll pass it back to you, Matthias or Pat, if you want to say anything. Maybe lessons
Okay.
learned, Pat, will we go through a couple of those? I'll let you read them rather than uh, call them out.
So you want Pat, you're here?
I'm here.
You
Yeah, maybe
wanna
Pat,
read
if
those?
you go through the lessons learned, Pat.
Jeez, Ciaran, you're on such a roll there. I was enjoying listening to you. Um,
I think training up well is the big thing. Like your training program, Pat had us going out
yeah,
to we get
yeah,
a train out to say Sligo and cycle back, or go to Kilkenny and cycle back. So we did massive training for this.
Yeah, I
especially
would
for the elevation.
I would comment this that doing 100 kilometers per day on Trans Dinarica is a lot. You know,
Yeah,
it's completely different 100 kilometers that maybe somewhere in Belgium or Netherlands where everything is flat. Here, you 50 is doable, and then like you said, maybe 70 would be fine for you, but 100 is a lot, and especially in April,
Yeah.
the days are still quite short. So
Yes.
it's
yeah,
again different if you're doing this in June or September. So if you want to see some things on the way, I would suggest to plan shorter stages, or you maybe plan too long and then too short, or something like this, a combination of. So yeah, 100
yeah.
days. You have
I
to
was,
be trained for that.
I was laughing at the start, Matthias, when Ciaran mentioned about getting off the bike. I don't think there was any day that I didn't want to get off the bike. I just, I just didn't say it.
It could be humbling at times, all right. But remember, I
Yeah,
think our worst trip was for a difficult situation with Scotland. We ended up in a hurricane, 50-kilometer winds in a tent, and you couldn't sleep that night.
yeah,
You know, it was just horrendous. So we've had horrendous weather. That was in August as well. So we had planned a trip in August, and I think the two tents were blown over that night.
yeah.
It
That was
was just
humbling. All
horrendous.
right.
Yeah, it
So
was.
this is
I'm not sure what was scarier, Ciaran wanting to come into my tent or the 50-kilometer winds.
He's joking, but so
this is type 2 fun, huh?
yeah,
Ben was talking about type 1
yes,
fun and type
exactly.
2 fun.
Yeah,
This is type
Yeah,
2 fun. Yeah, you
that's it.
remember later it was fun. So if anybody has some questions, you can either type in the message, or you can also we can let you in for you can ask to speak. Otherwise, I would maybe just ask you how it was, because you in Croatia you took the secondary route over Park Island, which was planned for early spring or late autumn when there's not so many tourists. So maybe can you comment how was this? How was this part?
Yeah, so a couple of interesting things. The first part was very quiet, like there was no traffic on the roads, and that was a pleasure. So it's always nicer to travel when there's no bikes and there are no traffic. The other thing we found unusual was if we went to a cafe or a bar, they didn't have any food. So you could get a coffee and you could get a beer or a Coke, but you couldn't get a croissant. And that was unusual. But we found that the places we stayed, the hosts were so nice. And there was one particular woman, um, and she washed all our clothes for us, and she really took care of us and fed us a nice meal. So yeah.
Okay, there's one question from Ellison. Are there any places that you wish you stayed for longer instead of
Oh
passing through?
yeah, I mean, God, there's so many places, but I guess
Lake Bled.
um, Lake Bled, yeah, we would have liked to have
Uh,
done the zip line there and got a boat out to the center.
yeah,
We would have loved to have more time there. Yeah,
that train ride up was definitely worth it, though, as you say. But Lake Bled, if we had stayed a night there, we could have probably got a couple of activities there.
definitely. And
Yeah,
Dubrovnik, we did stay 3 nights in Dubrovnik at the end. That was worth it. Mostar, I would have liked to have more time in Mostar.
yeah,
And there was a particular village in Slovenia that we had to skip because we didn't have time. Stranjar, I think it's called. But again, we would have loved to have spent. We would have loved to have done more. I mean, Ben did a trip the whole way to Istanbul, so at some stage, Pat, we'd have to do the same and do more of Trans Dinarica.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
We have a weekend house just next to this old railway, before the bridge when you went towards Bled. So if anybody else is coming, you can come to say hi. We have a couple of extra beds. Yeah, I believe it really depends. If you have time, it's nice to take time and maybe to plan 2 nights every 5 days, maybe. I don't know. It depends how much time you want to spend or where you want to come. But you can continue now.
No, so I was just showing some pictures in the background, Mateusz, because we took so many pictures along the way, and I was conscious at the time. So I thought during the question section, I would just flick through a few more pictures to give you an idea. But the presentation's done. This is more an appendix of additional pictures.
Okay.
Yeah.
People are shy, or they know everything already.
Yeah, this is Pat trying to copy the guys jumping off the Mostar Bridge. He was doing his own version.
But this is in Slovenia.
Yes, this is Slovenia Canal.
The camera stopped working the minute I jumped, strangely enough.
It's interesting to hear people from other countries speaking about your own country. So also for me, it's really nice to listen about Slovenia and other countries too that we. And it's nice, of course, to see that people are using what you created. So
yeah, no, you did a great job.
I'm happy to hear that,
Mateusz, because say it was when we went off your routes, we got into trouble. So you've done a good job in picking really quiet, very safe. I think safety is the big thing, and interesting places to see. It's that combination of safety, quiet roads, no traffic, and interesting places. I mean, that's perfection for us. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you. Nice to hear that. How many more pictures you have?
Oh, I think
this is day by day.
This was just giving you an idea. I don't know if people are interested. I could keep talking.
They're still here. They're still here. They're not dropping. So let's go over and then you can also comment what's.
Yeah, so this was Sten. We just stopped here for dinner. A beautiful place. This was our accommodation, and you can see that amazing view. Again, I think we went for a swim down there. That's another thing. Nobody goes for a swim at that time of the year.
No.
But we're used to going for a swim in Ireland in very cold temperatures. So wild swimming and wild camping and wild stuff. Yeah.
Croatians don't go off season. They will not go to swim. Even in the season, they have this sea there all the time. Some even can't swim. Well, when we come there, we always want to jump in, even if it's 10 degrees.
It's beautiful. Even in Dubrovnik, I was surprised there was nobody swimming, and we thought we can't. It looks so beautiful. You had to go in for a swim. Yeah.
In terms of swimming, it's maybe nice to go in September, October, when the tourist season is already ending, but the sea is still warm. So we go for holidays to Croatia in October, end of October, and the water is 24, 25, which is still fine, and not too many people. Thank you, Steve, from Canberra, Australia. I'm glad we maybe this timing is not the best for Europe and for United States, but at least we got some Aussies.
Yeah. One of the things going over Pag Island, if you remember, Ciaran, when we were through that, the winds coming down off the hills from the mainland over the water would scoop up the salt from the sea. So as we were cycling across Pag Island, there was white bits appearing on the bike, and we didn't know what they were until someone explained to us that the salt that comes off the sea onto the land, onto the island.
They produce salt there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we visited Kneen Fortress, the museum, another wonderful place and beautiful meal there. They have a fabulous restaurant. So,
You'd always remember the good meals, Kieran.
oh yes, just after you can see the happy faces after a nice meal.
You have to get calories back. And maybe
Yeah.
another comment. In the beginning, you were talking about prices, about the costs. And for everybody who's listening, Slovenia and Croatia are the most expensive out of all 8 countries. So the further south you go, the prices drop. And if in Slovenia you pay average 50, maybe even 70 to stay for accommodation, further south you can pay 20, 25. So just for idea how this costs.
Yeah, we thought it was really good value for money. I mean, to be able to get a two-bed apartment for 70 euro is superb. And we find that great. So it means more if for us it was more budget for nice meals and visiting places. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, this is our toughest day. We did decide to take one day off because it was lashing rain and we just got a taxi, but it cost us about 100 euro. But I think we needed the break at that stage. Um, so out of the 11, there was one day that we skipped, and it was the shortest day. I think it was the 70K day.
Yeah, and
But we were
also
welcome of the break.
the
Yeah.
stage to Mostar is one of the most demanding on whole Trans Dinarica. The last, drop from Bled in the lake.
Yes.
This is really hard. And on the other hand, Ćiro Trail, we also went to see it. It's completely different because it mostly runs almost flat or even down because it used to be railway. So it's much, much more easier comparing to the rest of Trans Dinarica.
Yeah.
It is. It is. This is on the Ćiro Trail now.
Mm.
Head in to Dubrovnik. But beautiful. That valley when you're looking down, it kind of the train hugs the edge of the mountain the whole way, and you're looking down on the valley. So and the surface is pretty good as well. All railways
I don't know
and
about everybody. I
Dubrovnik.
don't know about everyone else, Kieran, but I want to go back.
Okay. Good. If you cross Slovenia again, let us know. If not, I think now we've been together 50 minutes, so Dubrovnik is finished. Thanks a lot, Ciaran and Pat. It was a lot of useful information, I believe, for everyone who's planning. I believe most of people don't prepare 60-page PDF before they go on the trip. So this is, next level of planning, but we're different. Some plan more, some plan less. Thank you everyone for being here. If you need if you want to ask something more later, you can send an email. Otherwise, we see some of you next week. We have another 3 webinars coming, and after we hop on the bike and go.
Great. We look forward to those, Mateusz. We'll log in for those.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Thanks again.
Okay. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.